All right, folks, on my way to see 28 Years Later, definitively, 100%, without a doubt, the best trailer of the year, maybe of the decade. That's what has me so hyped for this. I want zombie madness, Danny Boyle style, Alex Garland script, all of these things to come together, so I hope it works. A little nervous. Let's do it. All right, just got home. Needed some time to reflect. Not exactly what I was expecting based on the trailer. I think there's a good portion of the movie that is, but it's almost two different ideas working against each other rather than feeling as cohesive as they want it to. I'm not saying it's bad. There are so many amazing stylistic moments. What you expect from Danny Boyle, the zombie madness is definitely there, and the camera angles are fantastic. So a lot that you can take away that feels right, but at the same time, I don't know if it came together. And that ending, it's a little wacky. Let's discuss.
Wait, sit here.
Auntie, what's going on?
Jimmy, sit still, keep quiet, and do not move from this spot.
So yeah, in case you were planning on taking the kids to see this movie, I wouldn't, even though there were kids in my theater. So why?
Why?
It's rated R. Bloody violence, nudity, language, brief sexuality. I'm just like, why are there children in here? You are terrible parents. So I'm still of the same mind. This feels like several movies in one, and I just have to talk about that brilliant trailer really quick. My God, one of the best trailers of the year, of the decade. I've watched it numerous times, but it also sets the table for something that ultimately this film does not deliver as a whole in its entirety. There's a portion of 28 Years Later that is exactly what the trailer said it was going to be, with the music and everything included, and it was really fun. Aaron Taylor-Johnson plays Jamie. He takes his son Spike out on a mission of sorts to kind of break him in. We have to survive, but we also have to learn how to hunt and attack and all the things that people in the apocalypse do. And so when they're on that little mission away from the island that keeps them safe, that was really fun. The stakes were extremely high. I loved the visceral nature of it. They do some things with the camera here that obviously, it's a Danny Boyle movie. They're going to do that in a Danny Boyle movie. But utilizing the iPhone in a very unique way. If you've seen the behind-the-scenes footage, the rig that they have to get different angles of the characters and zombies in the first act was really cool. At first, I'm like, that's a little weird. And then by the time you kind of break it in, you're thinking, no, that's cool. I kind of want more. I don't know if I love it, but I want to see it again. It's probably what my wife said to me the first time she met me. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is solid, as always, but Alfie Williams is Spike. The sequences between the two, he manages to steal the show a lot of the times because of that hesitation that he has, but also the fear that strikes the hearts of anyone going up against these very fast creature. What are they called? Zombies? Do they use the Z word in this film? That's for you to find out. And that was exciting. A little mindless. Ultimately, we've seen this before. The unique style is keeping it from feeling too conventional, but this is a plot that we've witnessed 1,000 times, right? What are they going to do different with 28 Years Later? Well, instead of taking that idea, working on it, and staying within the confines of what they built in the first act, they decide to go so far outside of that bubble and turn this into a completely different film by the end. A film that feels nothing like the first half. And honestly, as we're making that transition, I felt a little bit of a snag in the middle of the movie. Like, okay, where are we going? Why does it feel like it's taking so long to get there? I do appreciate some of these slower moments because we do meet some people along the way that make it more interesting. But ultimately, I'm thinking, all right, the pacing has hit a massive lag. Where are we headed? And then when we finally get there, the third act of this movie, something entirely different than the first, featuring Jodie Comer, Spike's mother, who was in the background at the beginning but goes to the forefront at the end. And then we meet Ralph Fiennes' character, who is just one of the more fascinating characters of the year. So far, I don't think we did enough with him to allow him to break through and become the highlight that I wanted him to be, but there's a lot about him that I'd love to see more of. And that was a totally unique experience compared to what the first half of this film is. Now, I enjoy elements of both. Absolutely. But if you're rewatching that trailer, the movie that you are expecting is not the movie that you ultimately get. That said, the individual sequences that work so well in 28 years later, the visceral madness of it all, the violence and gore, which is absolutely there. If somebody's telling you, there's no zombies in this movie, right? You're looking for it. No, that's not true. They're all throughout the first half and, scattered in the second half, but they are there, and you get that fear of we have to do anything it takes to survive. I love that. There are also different ways they approach the zombies, but within the third act, when we're putting one of the characters' sicknesses at the forefront of this story, then it becomes a story about life and death, what it means to survive and ultimately live, and then what it means to die. And you can die in many different ways during the apocalypse, during what's happening in 28 years later. But what we witness is much more methodical. What we witness is far less of that action movie we were promised in the first act, and ultimately becomes something that was kind of beautiful. Again, it's going to have a lot of people rolling their eyes, but I could see a lot of people watching this and feeling the warmth of that third act. Now, not the entire third act has that vibe, because we go from madness to slowing down and appreciating life itself, back to madness at the end. And where that madness leaves us is on a cliffhanger. And so I felt shortchanged by this film not ultimately delivering a satisfying ending for really any of the characters. That's a lie. There was one really satisfying ending. But for the rest of them, we're just kind of left wondering what's going to happen. Now, I know I've heard this movie, its sequel is coming very soon, and we're talking maybe like 6 months to a year. That's what I'm hearing through the grapevine. But even then, you could have found a better resolution than what you actually provided us. And it leans into the lunacy heavily within the last 5 minutes. And that's such a tonal shift from what you were getting for the 30 to 45 minutes prior to that. And so you're left on this beautiful moment, and then boom, what is happening right now? Oh, the credits. The movie's over.
You what?
And so the director here, Danny Boyle, the writer, Alex Garland. Alex Garland's directed some of my favorite movies of the last several years, a couple of disappointments. And Danny Boyle, I'll love a film, and then I'll be a little like, okay, that didn't entirely work for me. But both of them are acclaimed directors, and they both had something to say here. The problem is you have to parse through some things that don't have to do with ultimately what they're trying to say, but the things that we are parsing through are thoroughly entertaining, and part of me wanted that to be what the movie was. And so, again, it feels like two completely different movies that are trying to work together in harmony. Before I score this thing, what'd you think about 28 years later? What's the most disappointing film you've watched this year and the biggest surprise? And what's your favorite movie in this franchise? Also, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, share it with your friends or your grandma. 28 Years Later unleashes a wild, stylistic zombie frenzy that features a lot to love. Jodie Comer and Alfie Williams deliver wonderful performances while certain intense sequences keep you teetering on the edge. But brace for a bumpy ride as this film features an uneven tone and a story that can't quite decide on its message. This creates a jarring split between its two halves. Still, its unique vibe and raw entertainment value make it a chaotic adventure worth deciding for yourself, even if it doesn't fully revive the grand zombie epic that some fans are craving, especially after that first trailer that I have watched several times. I've watched that first trailer more than any other trailer this year by a long shot. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you enjoy this review and the style of this review, if you like seeing me in my car. Most people don't. Bye-bye.